He had wanted to make sure that he gives that little bit of breathing room to Americans who really need it. And this was targeted. This was targeted for Americans who are making less than $125,000. It gives that $10,000 debt relief. And if there are, and it has that Pell Grant provision in there, as we've talked about. You heard from Ambassador Susan Rice, and you guys have all read, I'm sure, the fact sheets. And when you look at the Pell Grant provision and you add that piece to it, that adds another, that could go up to $20,000, right?
Federal benefits will be changing. A new bill has just passed in Congress, and this means millions of people will see adjustments made to the monthly benefits, everybody. A bonus check worth $500 will also be automatically deposited very soon. And major changes are on the way because of a brand new law. These changes will affect prescription affordability for more than 50 million beneficiaries that are on Part D of Medicare. During a speech this month, Joe Biden said the Inflation Reduction Act finally delivers a promise that Washington has made for decades to the American people. We're giving Medicare the power to negotiate for lower prescription prices. Price negotiations are not the only provision in the bill targeting Medicare prescription costs. There are new caps on out-of-pocket spending, limits on increases in premiums and prescription prices, and more. Biden signed the act into law in June and August 2022. Certain changes will take effect in 2023, while others start as late as 2026. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, a Democrat from New York, has said in an official statement, the Inflation Reduction Act targets the most expensive, most used prescriptions that have enjoyed limited competition and maximum profit. Previously, Medicare was prohibited by law from negotiating prices for prescriptions, and now this means if you're prescribed one prescriptions with negotiated prices, you should see reduced prices starting in 2026. How much you could save depends on which prescriptions you take and the results of negotiations. Starting in 2025, out-of-pocket spending for Medicare Part D prescriptions will be capped at $2,000. That cap increases in subsequent years based on Medicare's annual spending for covered prescriptions. If Medicare spends 5% more, for example, the cap for 2026 would be higher, which is $2,100. Previously, there was no out-of-pocket spending cap for Medicare Part D, so after you reach the $2,000 out-of-pocket cap in 2025, you will not owe any more co-pays or co-insurance for covered prescriptions for the rest of the year. And with the federal government continuing to work on creating new relief programs, state governments are now using tax surpluses and leftover funds from the American Rescue Plan to provide direct financial support to millions of taxpayers.
And so that's incredibly targeted. That's really important. Those borrowers who are on Pell Grant, let's think about this, right? Some of us in here probably had gotten Pell Grant. I had to get a Pell Grant when I went to college. And those are families that are $60,000 households. And that's nearly $60,000 per household. And if you look at it by half, that's 30. Part of that tranche is $30,000 people per household, and so that's incredibly targeted and will go very far and will be a big deal. Look, we understand, the president understands, and he said this yesterday, it's not going to please everybody. He understands that the policy is not. What he is trying to do is make sure that, again, we're giving families a little breathing room. And just to give you a few quotes, because there has been a broad range of groups and advocates, from teachers unions to labor groups to racial justice advocates, who have applauded the president's announcements. If you think about the United Auto Workers, President Biden once again showed that his administration stands with working families over special interests. That's what we're talking about. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, this is AFSCME. Today's historic actions puts money back into working people's
children. That's the American dream. That's what we strive for. That's what we sacrifice for. And that's what Democrats' radical policies are destroying. Today, the ex-chairman of the Federal Reserve said the U.S. economy is heading towards stagflation for the first time since the 1970s. Remember, in the 1970s, Democrats had control, at then late 70s, of the White House, of the Senate.
Schumer called on the Labor Department to join him in his fight to get Biden to forgive $50,000 in federal student loan debt. During a roundtable with Elizabeth Warren and union leaders, Schumer said there was a false narrative about who student debt cancellation would benefit. Schumer stated, "Let's dispel one awful myth right here. That is not a problem that concerns the wealthy or the Ivy League. It's affecting working class people." Schumer also appeared to be speaking directly to Biden, who has repeatedly framed canceling student debt as a handout to the well-off. Schumer and lawmakers have made it clear that they will continue to push for student debt cancellation, and the Biden administration is grappling with the fact that the idea of student debt forgiveness infuriates many Americans, including those who never borrowed for their education or went to college. Taxes on employees making more than $400,000. The bill has gained some support, but is so far stalled in Congress. A big update, everybody. For Social Security and stimulus checks, eligible people can start applying today for additional stimulus assistance, and there are several programs that have been created that are aimed to providing financial help to Americans during this time. Today, people in Connecticut were able to start applying for a tax rebate just for families. The rebate, which was created as part of the budget bill that the governor signed into law last month, provides taxpayers with a state tax rebate of up to $250 per child for a maximum of 3 children. Any Connecticut resident who claimed at least one dependent, 18 or younger, on their 2021 tax return may be eligible as well. And while not everyone was qualified to receive the rebate, the Department of Revenue Services estimated more than 300,000 households can meet eligibility. Those applicants may see the extra money relatively soon. The filer status income threshold is single to married filing separately $100,000 or less and head of households. The rebate is for middle-class families. However, those who have higher income rates may be eligible to receive a reduced rebate based on their income. The period to apply began this week and ends on July 31st. The Department of Revenue Services said eligible families should start to receive their rebates in late August, right before the start of the new school year. The rebate came as the Biden administration pushed inflation as a top priority. It recently announced proposals aimed at boosting the U.S. economy. However, some of the presidential plans will need support of Congress, which could be a challenge. Governor Lyman said, "We created the state tax rebate to give Connecticut families with children additional relief. The application period is now open, and I strongly urge all families who claimed at least one dependent child on their 2021 tax return to submit an application as soon as possible, so that this rebate can be sent to you with no delays." When asked about rising inflation, McConnell told reporters, "We're going to have to squeeze this inflation down and get past the problems created by the Democratic government." Fewer Americans applied for jobless aid last week, with the number of Americans collecting unemployment at historically low levels. The Labor Department reported that applications for unemployment benefits fell by 11,000 to 200,000 for the week ending May 28th. And first-time applications generally track the number of layoffs. The 4-week average for claims, which evens out some of the weekly volatility, dipped by 500 from the previous week to 206,000. The number of people collecting jobless benefits for the week ending May 21st from the previous week also fell, down to 1.3 million, the fewest since December 1969. Experts say that